The missing piece, or shall we say, the missing piece, P-E-A-C-E. This is a discussion in response to the video by Abram Hicks, Esther Hicks and Abram Thrower on the missing piece, where a man has come to some profound realizations, questioning the law of attraction and the situation of the physical world. So, let's go back. In the early 1980s, I started investigating the law of attraction extensively and made it part of my life, applying it, living it, and eventually taking it into sales, pushing for making the best of this life, being loving, joyful, and all the things that go with it. Especially from the perspective of the living word, that was the approach that was taken in the books I read at that stage on the law of attraction. I did the Dale Carnegie courses, I did extensive sales training in Tom Hopkins, and applied these things with quite some effect. So for many years I was involved in that, and in approximately 1984 I met a deep trance medium, which later on became my father-in-law. And I had the opportunity to, over a period of nearly 10 years, having virtual exclusive access to a deep trance medium, speaking to many entities, beings, whatever we would like to call them, and getting quite a perspective of vibrations, because the deep trance medium was only able to communicate if there were sufficient vibrations. And with sufficient vibrations, the beings could come through and speak through the medium. Now, in all of this, always I was aware. I was fortunate to be in the police, so for 5 years, so I had a view of life on earth that one don't normally get, where you work with the part of society that is mostly ignored. And I studied law because I wanted to make a difference in the world. But my experience in the police made me realize that there is no justice, and that the law as it exists certainly do not regulate the relationships between people, but rather is something I wouldn't like to live or be part of, because in essence it's not about truth. Law is about lies and how to protect lies in every way possible. It is from the law of contracts to criminal law to corporate law. All of it is only about protecting self-interest. It is never about producing anything that would be best for life on earth. And therefore, in essence, law is the very expression of fear. So, in all of this, I reached a point in the early 1990s that shook the very foundation of my existence, where through an event that caused my divorce and caused all of my businesses to go to ground on the actions of people that I trusted, my foundation of trust was shaken. And obviously, I am not without blame in all of this, but it certainly shook me enough to question my reality. So I investigated my experience, and my experience was very similar to what the experience is that the man in the video of Abraham Hicks shows in his question. That was the questions that was arising, and there was no support or any supporting material or anything that would substantiate my experience, because everything was trying to pull me back to being positive and creating my reality and not being influenced by the contrasting lives, the contrast in the picture, so to speak, because after all it is like a contrast. I mean, some pictures are brighter and therefore the lives seem to be better and happy and joyful, while other contrasts are darker and murkier, and the lives around that are more full of suffering and negative. And everybody wants to have the better contrast, the bright side of the contrast, as if there is a contract you have for yourself to ignore reality. At that stage, obviously, I've spent extensive time on the mind and consciousness and feeling and all that goes with spirituality. Extensive research, participating in extensive meditation, extensive studies, or in developing intuition, being part of circles, developmental circles, speaking through deep trance mediums, many psychics I met, being part of positive thinking groups, the whole story. So when I started questioning this, obviously, my approach was met with great disdain, and I was dismissed as negative and virtually insane to dare to question the contrasting situation on earth. So I did an interesting thing. I have been working with self-forgiveness, studying it, looking at the whole point of forgiveness, and at that stage I've obviously already extensively investigated. Channels like Cryon had every book. Was part of internet groups, chat groups, discussion groups, reading every channel from the archangels and the various beings about love, pushing myself to get to this point of understanding the love that crying represents, which is, it's like, in words, seems to be significant, divine, wonderful. And to a degree, managing the experience and promoting it. In some cases so effectively that some of the people I converted to this in the 1990s are still in this position even today and regard me as some form of evil that is arisen from the flesh, like a beast. And so I investigated self-forgiveness and made an agreement with my ex-wife to sit down and forgive each other, to make sure that the children that was born out of the marriage will not be affected by the decisions we've made. And in a period of approximately 8 hours of doing self-forgiveness aloud, my total perspective of everything changed. I experienced a significant effect with the self-forgiveness on my physical. By doing it aloud, face-to-face, in absolute self-honesty, taking responsibility absolutely for every thought, everything I've done, participated in, brought a significant release at a physical level. It was as if the burden, so to speak, was lifting from my flesh. And my ability to notice what was going on around me and in the minds of and lives of other people significantly increased. It's what one would in many ways will call psychic ability, but it wasn't psychic. It was as if one was opening your flesh to this, and it wasn't the mind, because the mind started to become quiet. So I decided that I have found something that makes a difference to the peace I experience, and I will explore this to see where it will take me. And I started the process of daily self-forgiveness and writing that I did for many years. Obviously, the man in the Hicks video that asked the question now faces a significant point, the point of self-honesty, and most fall at this point because there is seemingly no support, and we are also addicted to an instant resolution, an instant answer, that one is not willing to walk the detail. And very much the message of law of attraction is to ignore the detail and to focus on what you want. It's like focus on your own contrast and ignore the rest. And obviously from a law of attraction point of view, in the Hicks story, the physical is the beast. I suppose the intent there is to link it to the beast of Revelation, and that the beast is illusion and insignificant in this whole play on earth. Obviously that if one do some self-honest investigation, you're going to notice that the beast is the key to your total experience, and that the contrast one make up in the mind is the illusion you choose to feed. And this one should study extensively. The material is available to show how this functions and why this happens. But back to the self-forgiveness point, and the self-honesty for this man. The chances are, him being part of the inner circle of the Hicks phenomena, is that will he be able to stand in the face of everyone around him, in a way ignoring his point They will be nice, but only so far, hoping that inevitably time and pressure will push him back to the fold of the positive laws of attraction, creating your reality the way you would like it, ignoring and disregarding the beast, the physical reality, the suffering, the fact that peace is missing on earth, and that there is no peace coming, and no matter how many beings are part of this positive phenomena, there is no change in the world. In fact, quite the opposite is happening. Yes, if you give attention to the positive contrast, you set the negative contrast free to do whatever it wants. Very dangerous to do that, because inevitably it'll go full circle and it'll affect your life most significantly, and then the road to correction is a very long, arduous road. Now, hopefully this man will be able to find the self-honesty to walk the process to realizing the significant detail one needs to know about what it is that makes life possible, what it is that makes the mind function, where does thought come from, what creates feeling, what creates emotion, how does it function, can you change it, or are you just a robot that follows the programs seeking to fulfill it as some positive outcome? Because apparently there is something greater. But if there is something greater, you are not the creator. But after all, maybe you are. And if you are the creator, you are significantly responsible for everything you're part of. And of that, you're most significantly part of the physical beast. The physical beast determines the energy that you use in the mind to conjure up thoughts and feelings. So without the physical beast, the energy don't exist. All this higher vibrations story is a fascinating thing that should be investigated if in any way you have some compassion and empathy for the suffering going on earth, to see if there is any integrity in following a path of positive contrast, ignoring the negative. Which vision is the vision you're telling yourself to project on the pixels of your mind as the picture of yourself in this world, which include only what you want and exclude what you don't want? Because in fact, what you don't want is fear, and what you want is running away from fear. There are many, many ways to look at this. And at the end of the day, one of the most significant points is the fact that who you are can't be your mind, because that is coming from others in a significant way. There must be something more, because who you are and experience yourself to be are dependent on the beast, the physical body. And understanding how that functions takes time. Just as it took time for a child from birth to even the age of 18 to learn to be part of this world, to learn language, to learn how to think. None of these things were part of the original birth process. All of it are taught by the fathers and mothers, perpetuating the sins of the fathers. And obviously we would like to give emphasis to the positive part of it all, to create a wonderful life, because life is short, you must make the best of it. all kinds of justifications are used, but at the end of the day, the significant point is, what is really going on here on earth? Why is it that everyone deliberately ignore the most important part? Man, know thyself. Now, what is man? Is man the mind and the personality and the energy and the feelings? That's not man. Man is the beast, the physical. Man, know thyself. You have to know your physical. You have to know how you create thoughts, how you create consciousness. Because if you don't know, the consciousness you become would be influenced extensively by influential people and influential ideas. But you won't know where it comes from, because instead of looking at the beginning, the cause, you only look at the effect, the positive, the outcome, that which you want, the self-interest, instead of realizing that the outcome depends on the beginning. And to assume that because the outcome is what you like, or the positive, or the contrast that benefits you, or the self-interest, just because that is the outcome doesn't mean the beginning is divine, is what is best, is in fact pure, clear. Because the physical reality shows very clearly there's a problem with this beginning. The more one focuses on the only one side of this contrasting reality, the bigger the opposite contrast develops. So it's all polarity stuff. Not realizing that if you play with energy without understanding where it comes from and how it is directed and how it's programmed, and you focus only on utilizing the positive side of the energy, and to even make it and purify it for yourself even more, because you believe there is something more to come after death, without any actual evidence but stories from people, while the actual evidence, the very point that you live through, is the physical, you ignore. That is quite a problem. So this point is quite significant, where this man asked a question which most never dare to ask. And this is a question everyone should ask themselves, and the investigation one should enter into. Realize one thing, a fascinating point, is that it'll take you more than 7 years to investigate your physical existence if you are really dedicated. If you do not give in to the energy, if you do not give in to how your addiction to the positive will take you down into depression the moment you move away from it, because you've never known how to live as the beast. You've only ever lived as the mind, as an illusion, complete in isolation, where you can make up any thought, any feeling, any picture that you want without any reference to reality whatsoever. And you can make this believe, and all you have to do is get a group of people together that all say, oh, let's be positive, let's create a positive world, let's make a group. And then you have it. A group that ignore. A group that will accumulate resources, money, everything for their own power, to protect themselves against the negative, causing massive poverty in this world through positive thinking and law of attraction. Because while you're attracting to you, you are taking from others. You're in fact stealing life from billions of people in this world. Strange enough, justification, which is such a wonderful tool, makes it possible to justify why, and to use experience as evidence instead of the true evidence, which is how does things actually function? What is the quantum mind? How did the child start thinking? No parent knows how a child starts thinking, or how a child learned to speak, or how a child actually starts walking. It's not the mind that do that. It's the body that do that. It's the beast. The beast is the wonderful thing. The beast is amazingly more advanced than the mind could ever be. The beast is what makes life on earth possible, not the mind. The mind is your challenge to find out who you really are and if you actually love life or whether you love self-interest. So love is a contrasting word where you have to be very careful what and how you use it to contrast your own self-interest over that of what is best for all life on earth. Now, here I will add that in this whole process, and we've been walking this process now for many years, and there's the Destiny Portal. If you're really going to get into it, you're going to be in for a big challenge, because there's a lot of material, and material do challenge everything that has existed thus far as the human experience and the hereafter experience. And there is significantly enough material for those that dare to be self-honest to challenge their own self-interest and is willing to walk the time it's going to take to prepare yourself for what is to come in a world that is and the peril of the law of attraction. So, I suggest you read the Journey of Life blogs. I suggest you study the quantum mind. I suggest you test self-forgiveness aloud and in writing, and you test self-honesty to see for yourself. I suggest you consider the physical reality for what it is in space-time. You're bound to it. In a way, consciousness is imprisoned in it, but you've created this prison and the idea of yourself as the convict in this prison through your convictions. You are convicted by yourself. You are the creator, in fact. You have a choice, but when that choice is misdirected to self-interest, you cause a reality where there is no choice but suffering. You cause a reality where some will have everything and others will have nothing. It is certainly not the way to go. That's why we have presented an equal money solution, which is an interesting interim point that makes it possible for everybody to study what is necessary to be studied, which is the beast. Man, know thyself. Beast, know thyself. If you don't know yourself, and you don't know where your thoughts come from, and you don't know where your feelings come from, and you don't know where your emotions are coming from, and you don't know where your experiences are coming from, how can you trust them? How can you ever be trusted with life? What is the significant outflow from that at the moment of death? If you cannot leave your body at will, how do you know what is after death? And that which is presented as apparently after death, if that is positive and in the same vein as the law of attraction, of love and so on, which in essence is self-interest, how can one believe that? Because as above, so below, as below, so above. So what is on earth as the physical world, as the suffering, what do you think awaits after death? Common sense, common sense, common sense. Nothing is going to change. You have to be the same yesterday, today and tomorrow in all realities. Here on earth and hereafter, you will be the same. And just because you're positive doesn't mean after death it's going to be positive. It only means that you're going to experience what you've allowed through what you've created, through placing importance on only what interested you, instead of first establishing a world of peace, a world of harmony, a world where the beast walk with the beast as equals, as life, as love, as full understanding, where abuse ends and suffering ends. First that, then you can face the hereafter with dignity and with trust and with strength and steadfastness, and you'll be able to honor and respect yourself as a creator. Not doing that, finding out the truth is a shock beyond shocks. There is a lot of material to be studied if one is really willing to start taking on your fear, the fear that maybe being positive isn't all there is. There is something else. There must be something else. That's something that creates all that you experience, because it's not you. It's your physical body that's creating it. And if you don't know how you have trained your physical body to create this, there is a big shock awaiting when this physical body ends. Because everything the physical body is creating, to which you're addicted, will suddenly no longer exist in one breath. And in this, breathing is extremely important, because your total existence on earth is dependent on you breathing. No breath, no life. And you must be able to be in the breath and in the shoes of every being on earth, and be willing to live their life, satisfied that it is as effective as it can be, because everything that is on earth is given freely to everyone by earth. To give it value and withhold it from some so that you can have more is hardly benevolent. It's rather evil, because you are working life backwards for your own self-interest. Not acceptable. So I ask you, do not wait till it's too late, till your breath runs out. Because what awaits at the door of death is consequence. That's common sense. Investigate and birth yourself from the physical, birth life from the physical. The message of Jesus with that is very clear. The marvel of marvels is the birthing of life from the physical. Consciousness is not life. Positive thinking is not life. Having a good life is not life. It is self-interest. It is an illusion you've created to run away from the reality of the difficulty it takes to live in a world where things move through physical action, where you have to take care through physical touch, where you have to love through physical support, not through lip service and mental illusions. So I ask that you do, if you can find it within you, investigate. There is a destiny for earth, not a beautiful one, unfortunately, at this stage. Great difficulty is growing and has been growing for some time, and there are great challenges ahead. And you can go and study me. You'll see how I'm being attacked from every corner ever since I dared to speak up about this. in every possible way, attempts are made to present me as some evil thing. But if you go and study the common sense that I'm presenting, you'll realize that I am maybe one of the few beings on earth that really care about what happens to you. But I can't help you. Nobody can. I can't save you. Nobody can. I can't promise you anything better. Nobody can, because it depends on you and how you live your life in this world as the beast, as the flesh. That's why the word flesh, if you move the letters around, you'll see it's the word self. The real self is the living flesh, is the beast. And at this stage, the beast is so ignorant that it functions as a complete slave to your consciousness. Every thought you have comes from a program you have programmed and allowed to be programmed into your flesh. It's automated. It appears through stimulus response as an energetic animation, similar to a television program. When you switch it on, when you have a thought, your mind is like a television screen. Have a look how often you would speak words, and it's different to the thoughts in your mind. There is no integrity in the human. Just because what I present is perceived to be negative, because it is in contrast to the whole positive message. Go and study it, and you're going to find a fascinating thing. At Destiny, we present only exactly that which we find in our research, exactly what we find on the other side of death, exactly, word for word. We don't polish it up so that you can like it, or only say it in ways that you're going to like it. We say it exactly as it's found, as a record, so that when there has been enough trauma in your life, and you eventually decide that you must find out why you're not getting it, that there is a record that can support you. That's why we do it. That's why we ask people to write the journey to life as a record to help you when you realize. And very, very, very few people on earth at this stage has realized anything. The self-interest is immense. And it is as it should be, because each one must face the truth of their own illusion. You're responsible because you accepted and allowed it to exist. You're allowing this world to exist in great contrast instead of equality, in great inequality instead of what is best for all life, always. And free choice implies that you are able to make the choice for what is best for all life, always. And the very moment you're not making that choice, you're no longer free, because you take away the freedom from others, because now life is no longer what's best for everyone, and some suffer and some has got the good life. There's now a contrast. What con is this contrast? What con is this consciousness that you subscribe to? Why do you do this? Investigate your fear. Investigate the dishonesty. Make a decision. There is a decision to be made. Stand up from the depth of despair once you fall. You're going to get to that point where you fall into this despair, where nothing wants to work anymore. But you're still going to have to breathe, you're still going to have to move, you're still going to have to keep on going. If you don't, things will get very, very tough, and you will end up going back to your positive thinking, because it's just easier. Yes, it is easier. The truth hurts. The truth is never beautiful and lovely. The truth hurts. When this world is what is best for all, in every way, always, every child born has got a life secured, will have a wonderful life possible, then the truth will be love. But at the moment, the truth hurts. And make sure you're not part of those that is causing this hurt and this harm, because there is no forgiveness possible for what is going on here on earth. There is no way one can ever run away from it. Death makes sure of that. Make sure you make the decision that honors life, because unless you honor life, you will lose your life. That much is certain.